The labor theory of value is a theory that Adam Smith had, and Adam Smith was a little inconsistent with it because he deduced capitalism from it, whereas Karl Marx was more consistent, because if the labor theory of value is correct, then labor should get the entire GDP. Whereas labor right now gets about 75% of the GDP. The rest of it goes for profits, interest, income, rent, whatever. So if the labor theory of value is correct, the reason things are valuable is because they've got labor inputted in them. But it's easy enough to show that the labor theory of value is wrong, because a mud pie and a cherry pie both have the same amount of labor put into them. And yet the mud pie isn't worth anything and the cherry pie is worth a lot. You could bend down and pick a gold nugget or a diamond as big as your fist, and it's worth a ton. And yet you didn't put any labor in it, hardly. And another proof that it's wrong is you have a car, and your car keeps changing in value based on supply and demand. And yet the labor in it initially doesn't change at all. So if labor was so definitive in determining the value of your car or your house or your chair, it would never, the value would never change, because the value of labor put into something never changed because it was historical. So the labor theory of value is just all wrong. Now, sometimes what they'll say is, well, in the mud pie, there wasn't the socially necessary labor put into it. It was socially unnecessary. But the way they determine what's socially necessary and what's not is by arguing in a circle. Namely, they're going to say that the mud pie was not socially valuable, whereas the cherry pie, the labor was. So it's just a nonsense. What determines value is supply and demand. And people's desires for things, and that's how you get the value of things. Now, labor is important. Who can deny that? But you know, there are things that have very little labor and they're worth a lot, and things that have a lot of labor and they're not that worth much. I mean, at one time, the frisbee and the hula hoop were very valuable. Everyone wanted one, and then all of a sudden, people didn't want them, and they had the same amount of labor in them, and yet their value changed. So what's with the labor theory of value?